All right, folks, we apologize for the minor technical delays there, working on getting a few people in here. But good evening, folks, and to put our final wrap and cherry on top for the 2017 WNBA draft, welcome into the WNBA 365 Network's draft show after party. And folks, a pleasure and privilege to be joined by one of the great women's basketball Twitterverse users. That would be Owen Perkins. I like to call him the Stat Rat because he's in charge of the WNBA Stats and Facts handle. Owen, welcome aboard, man, and thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
You guys can find Owen on Twitter. His handle, by the way, folks, is at WNBA Stats Facts. His reason why I call him the statistical department for the network Twitter, for the women's basketball Twitter handle. Joining us, by the way, folks, all the way over in Winston-Salem, North Carolina this evening. And Owen, I know that you probably missed parts and bits and pieces of the draft. So again, folks, what we'll do here is we'll go through the whole draft, pretty much talk over from there for the remainder of the abbreviated program we do have tonight. And of course, with the small problems we had getting Owen in, Crystal Thomas and Tanisha Stewart were both unavailable tonight at last minute. But we will, though, folks, be able to give you the entire draft order, talk about a few players and what will go on from here. You guys can, of course, get involved on social media as you can with any network program here. Find us at WNBA 365 at Calamac3, or again, you can find Owen's handle. He is at WNBA Stats Facts on Twitter as well. So, Owen, there was a lot of stuff beforehand because we had talked on and Pat Friday and Angelique Gray, who was kind of joining us from NBA TV, of so many rumors about trades being made. But Owen, as of now, still at about 7:48 Pacific time, still no bombshells, no fireworks, no explosions yet. That's sort of been a thing that a lot of people have talked about was, on the not just that, but also I guess the theme or the timing of the draft. Of course, there was some problems with securing arenas or securing a place to have it, and somewhat a very low key event for the most part. What it looked like, not the traditional big stage, players going up and getting jerseys. More so, we're doing it for media appearances for the whole thing. So a lot of people were saying, if it's not broke, why fix it? And I guess from fellow followers on Twitter, what is like your opening thoughts about how the WNBA draft was handled this year as opposed to drafts in the past, with somewhat a very lackluster evening for the most part in regards to just, a brief interview with Holly Rowe, no jerseys being shown for that matter, but overall thoughts are what?
I was really actually disappointed with the setup of it. I was very taken aback by how there was no stage or formal presentation, I guess. It seemed very get up from the table and stand here and we'll do a little interview real quick and then sit back down and we'll move on. I really did not enjoy it. I wish there was a little more to it. That's one of the biggest nights of their careers, getting drafted into their, likely career for at least the next few years, and being unable to enjoy it, with the stage. And I know that seems, minor things, but that's a big deal. I haven't been through the experience, but I'm sure that is definitely something that they did not like about having it there. Is not having the media attention and bright lights, cameras, all over, with the association with being on a stage like they did at Mohegan Sun the past few years.
And again, folks, the draft this year, somewhat due to the Final Four for women's basketball, along with just the timing of the event in general, was not held at Mohegan Sun Arena in Uncasville, CT, as it has been the past few years. It was actually held at the Samsung 378 in New York City this year, which really was a full-blown switch of the normal, what you're normally accustomed to for WNBA drafts. It even looked like as well, Owen, that it looked like Ryan Ruocco, Rebecca Lobo, and LaChana Robinson, at least to me, it looked like they, for a second, I thought they weren't even in New York. It looked like they were back at ESPN Studios in Bristol because of how their stage was set up with somewhat the Sports Center type background and the big desk. So obviously, do you believe that after this year that there may be some more tweaks made into kind of going a traditional draft format perhaps for 2018 and beyond?
I think that's something that they need to have. Maybe they'll receive some feedback, Miss Borders and the rest of the staff at the league office will receive some feedback from those players. And maybe we'll see some changes next year, because I was very unimpressed with the almost thrown together at the last minute nature of how it was presented this year. I was very disappointed. So yes, I do hope for changes next year, and I wouldn't mind seeing it back at Mohegan Sun.
Yeah, either there, you can go back to the Garden. I personally was a big fan of when the draft was at Radio City Music Hall in New York City as well. Well, a couple comments real quick, folks. Todd Mintz says, this has been discussed for weeks, what the these are the kind of issues that keep this product from really being considered something we all look forward to with no hype. And also on one thing, though, that Todd does bring up too, public not invited to this event due to the nature of it being such a last minute effort, but also at least seeing that building OP, I wouldn't have wanted to look like tables and tables and tables. And again, really no flavor or pizzazz in regards to having, a draft somewhat, a very low, what looked like a very, very low key event this evening.
Yeah, I really thought it was just very lackluster. Very disappointed. I was just not impressed with how that was put together. And I think that, it just reflects on some of the things that have been going on. I mean, I'm not trying to throw any shade, if you will, towards, league officials or anything, but I was very unimpressed. That makes me wonder, what are they doing up there and what are their priorities?
I agree. One quick comment as well from I believe Michael De Leon of StarsHoops.net. He says, I had a writer covering it there for Stars Hoops. Service setup was quite strange. Prefer the way it has been before, as we all do. With that, though, guys, we'll now get to the more important topics, of course, which is diving into the actual draft itself. We'll start, of course, Owen, with the Stars owning the #1 pick this year, and they take Kelsey Plum out of Washington, and formerly, as I've documented very well, out of La Jolla Country Day here in San Diego, California. Owen, there was a lot of rumors, though, early 10 o'clock time out here in San Diego, potentially the Stars wanting to do away and deal their #1 pick, but Ruth Riley just confirmed to Steve Anderson of Stars Hoops, they had no intentions of dealing away their #1 or 5 picks. The NCAA's all-time leading scorer to your franchise, obviously, it still may be a bit of an uphill climb for the Stars in year one, but hey, you've got a very promising scorer that's a very lethal weapon coming your way. What do you think about the Stars maintaining their #1 pick and getting Kelsey Plum? Of course, as we've seen in recent years, best college player always going #1 9 times out of 10. What do you think?
I think it was an excellent choice for the Stars. I think it's a great start for Ruth Riley in her GM career, and also a good starting place for Vicky in her coaching career. Right now, in my eyes, from a statistical point of view, as you know, that's sort of my thing. I think they could maybe make the playoffs this year with some, they're going to need some obvious, development. But, if they can put it together, then I don't see a reason from the playoffs this year. But I definitely think they will have a more successful season. And I am 100% for them keeping Kelsey Plum. They've got a great shooter, a great guard, someone who looks to score and looks to get points on the board, but does not lack anything on the defensive end either. Very strong pick.
Very strong pick. And I think just from being in San Diego and seeing Plum, and of course before there was Candace Wiggins, of course, who had gone 3 to Minnesota in 2008. But even Plum was, 1B, riding her coattails basically at La Jolla Country Day, and that excelled all the way on to Washington, and then of course now to the #1 spot in the WNBA draft. At #2 OP, we've got Chicago drafting Elena Coates. This was one of the many moves that were draft picks being swapped beforehand. So this was actually Washington's #2 pick going to the Sky, and they get Elena Coates in the #2 spot. On what do you make about this? Obviously, this is the first of many moves we'll talk about that we're all a part of many offseason transactions. But what do you think about Coates going there, of course, now post Chapman and post EDD?
I really thought it was actually strange. I thought that the Sky would be a shooter or a wing type player, but of course, Elena is a good choice. I can't, really say anything bad about that. I just really thought that they were set in the center position with Cheyenne Parker. I know they lost Erica De Souza to San Antonio, as a matter of fact, and Clarissa Dos Santos also. But I really thought they would be looking more for a shooter to help fill the void that Elena Delle Donne did leave there. But Elena Coates, I guess, is not a bad pick to fill a spot in the center depth.
So again, Elena Coates to Chicago by way of Washington, of course, one of the many moves made during the Elena Delle Donne sweepstakes. The number 3 and 4 OP, we've got Dallas taking Evelyn Akuhater in the 3rd spot, and the number 4 was Alicia Gray, which of course was a part of that wacky Connecticut Los Angeles deal. Of course, now folks, the Sun and Sparks made a deal last draft day, which of course sent Chelsea Gray to Los Angeles. Then the Sparks made a deal with Dallas for Odyssey Sims that of course sent the 4th pick to Sparks. So I mean, Owen, with all these machinations and stuff, I mean, so you've got, you know, pretty much a Connecticut and Sparks pick going to Dallas. And I think, though, that obviously Dallas had to break up that backcourt combo of Sims and Diggins, and they did that this year, of course, by dealing Odyssey to Los Angeles earlier in the offseason. OP, in your mind, what does Dallas pick up here with these back-to-back selections in round 1?
Well, I think they picked up a great rim protector and, you know, a good complement to Skylar Diggins in the backcourt. I think that was the right move to get rid of Odyssey. Not necessarily get rid of her, but trade for a player that would better fit their system. And I think Alicia Gray was the right choice. Both would like to run an up-tempo offense, and they're, you know, and I think also, you know, Evelyn Akator. I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name right. Evelyn Akator.
I don't think I am either.
All right. But Evelyn Akator, I think, will also be a good fit. She is great down low, especially working in the post. I really look forward to seeing her in a Dallas Wings jersey because she can help provide Courtney Paris some rest, which she needs as she ages, you know, in her career.
Absolutely. One more quick comment, folks, about, as we said, we've kind of talked about the whole event as a whole. Michael Driver says, draft looked like something in a high school gym. Shocked at the lack of pizzazz. League must do a better job to attract fans and promote expansion. Hopefully we'll get to that sometime very soon. But again, Evelyn Akaharter and Alicia Gray, both picks going to Dallas. Of course, that 4th spot, again, folks, Dallas via Connecticut via Los Angeles. 5 spot, Owen, the Stars had the 5th pick. And, of course, as we said, Ruth Riley, stick by her guns, did not move those 1 or 5 selections in regards to just in regards, like, again, we heard a lot of rumors. They picked up Nia Coffey at the 5 spot. This was actually the pick for the Mercury at the 5 spot. But, of course, that was sent over to the Stars via the Danielle Robinson trade made earlier in the offseason. In regards to this, now, Owen, again, we talked about Dallas having 2 picks. But, again, we really thought, though, in the 4 o'clock hour, maybe one of these picks, either Plum or Coffey. Again, Ruth saying, we're not doing that. We're building for the future. But, Owen, what do you believe, though, that the Stars did get out of Nia Coffey, falling to them at 5, and again, with this trade being done earlier in the offseason for that 5 spot?
I think they made a great choice. I had this one picked in my mock draft that I think we all did with Anella earlier this week. I think they made a great choice. Their roster was a little short on forwards. I think they needed someone to fill a spot in training camp. Maybe have a little competition there for some forward spots, but they were a little light on forward, so I was expecting a forward pick, and I think they chose the right one with the 5th pick.
So again, Nia Coffey from the Tuba Stars to Phoenix at 5. Then the number 6 pick, Owen, goes to the Mystics via the Storm. Now, again, it was the Mystics, Sky, and Storm all involved in that 3-team deal that, of course, sent Elena Delle Donne to the Mystics. Shatori Walker-Kimbrough goes there. And I'll tell you what, Owen, this was one player I really enjoyed watching this season when I had time to watch D1 hoops, of course, me doing Division II games. But that was one player that really stuck out in mind to me, other than Kelsey Plum, maybe, that really was is going to make some big impact for her team going forward. OP, what do you think about Walker-Kimbrough going to Washington and, again, in the new era for the Mystics, again, with the Delle Donne Tolliver?
I think that she will be a great fit. I think she'll provide some much-needed bench scoring. She may or may not start. I really think either way she'll do just fine. She's one of the only – I agree, her and Kelsey Plum are a couple of the guards that I am almost for sure will thrive and came out of this draft. But either way, I think no matter who she plays behind or no matter whether she starts or is on the bench to begin with, I think she'll provide some much needed scoring and also defense. The Mystics need a little bit of defense. I think that she's, a great producer of defense, and also on the offensive end, I think both ends, they got a really good.
Yeah, I know that we've already had some rumblings about them saying we'll work on defense later, knowing Deladon and Tolliver's history with defense, but Walker Kimbrough definitely could help out their defensive parts. But again, Shatori Walker Kimbrough to the Mystics via the Storm due to that Deladon trade at 6. 7th overall, one was going to Atlanta. And again, I brought up on the draft day show, OP, was seeing Sykes play with Syracuse and again, leading that team to the Final Four and to the finals just a couple of years ago. I knew that in big games she'd step up, and I mean she played well enough for her team to win if it wasn't against UConn a couple of years ago. And also knowing Atlanta will not have Angel McCoughtry to start the season at least the whole year, I should say. I think that at this point, she has a very good shot of making this roster, at least with Angel sitting out the season. But OP, what do you think though about Brittany Sykes, for that matter, going to Atlanta?
I had her a little bit later in my draft. But I think they made a great choice. I think she is a very intangible-based player, very physical, definitely in around trying to, going for the ball every time, tough physicality, very good choice, especially with the Angel McCoughtry sitting out this season. I think that when Angel returns, I think Brittany would be a great backup for her. And this year, without Angel, will provide some much-needed experience for this team, and also she'll have some good players to learn from in the guard aspects with Laisha Clarendon, Rashonda Gray. I think she'll have some good options.
And it was great, though, too, having Angel Gray on from Fox Sports Southeast this afternoon, too, and she had a lot of good praise for Sykes coming there, of course, her time in Atlanta. So, again, Brittany Sykes at 7 to Atlanta. Number 8 pick was to the Sun, Brianna Jones by way of Indiana. Of course, this was one of the other many draft picks that were swapped in round 1. So, Owen, knowing again that the Sun have missed the playoffs 4 straight seasons, and again, they are the walking dead. They've had so many injury problems lately, of course. Still no word about if Cheyenne if she'll be for the season. Kurt Miller even said that last year was going to be a definite learning curve for his club last year. Owen, what do you believe that Brianna Jones can bring to CT to somewhat get this team back on track and hopefully a playoff for the first time in quite some time?
Well, I hope Brianna can do some work, because with the loss of Kelsey Bone last year, in the trade with Phoenix, I believe, I think they've got a good person out there. It'd be great if they had Chinea Gumake back for this season, but, that's one of those things that's up in the air. But I think they found a very versatile player. I think she's very, motivated. She's here. As, in the draft broadcast, they talked about her shaping up. She lost 15 pounds for her senior year, and look where it got her. And hopefully it gets her even further with the Sun, and maybe they can show up in the playoffs for the first time in, I believe, 5 years.
It's been a while. Been a long time for those fans in Unkinsville. But again, Brianna Jones to the Sun by way of the Fever. Again, a couple of draft pick swaps once more. Then again, Owen, finally, we had another straight-up pick get made here. The Sky at 9 pick up Tori Jankowska from Michigan State. So again, as we said, when the second real draft pick was Deladon post Chapman, at least. So what do you think that Tori can bring to the Sky? I mean, obviously, it's going to be maybe a little bit tough early to see what's going to work, trying to fill in for Deladon, and also with this being, a new coaching regime in Chicago with Amber Stocks, who was not what I was told by FanRag Sports' Eric Nimchok was. She was not the first head coach on their itinerary to talk to. She was like really down the list when they hired her. With all that said, though, OP, what do you think Chicago in the long run for the season?
Say that again. You missed it. I missed it.
What do you think Tori can bring to Chicago for the season to kind of help out post Deladon and post Pokey Chapman?
I think she brings a great shooting presence. She's a very wise guard. She reminds me a lot of a taller Lindsay Allen that is willing to shoot more often than Lindsay Allen will. She ran the Michigan State offense under Coach Susie Merchant, and I believe that she would provide, quality shooting option for the Sky this season, and that's something they'll need with the loss of Elena Delle Donne.
So again, Tori Jankowska, Michigan State to the Sky at 10, and then the Wings picked at 10 via New York this time. Kalia Davis. So I'll tell you this much, Owen. For a team with 3 picks in the first round, I believe the Wings hit a 3-run home run right here with Coates, along with Coates and Akuhatter, and then along Davis. I mean, it's a pretty good trio of players to bring in to somewhat, I guess, get the roster age down. Obviously, Plannett Pearson goes in free agency to Minnesota as one talking point. And as we said, they broke up the Diggins and Sims relationship in the backcourt. Also, of course, dealt Raquana Williams last season. So in your mind, Owen, what do you think Davis brings for Dallas going forward? Again, 3 first-round picks all are going to be in training camp for the Wings this season.
I think she's going to bring a great presence. I'm thrilled that they were able to get both South Carolina guards in Alicia Gray and Kayla Davis with the 4th and the 10th picks. I think they will try to run a system around a fast-paced offense with the kind of players that they have received tonight. I definitely think that Kayla will be able to provide an immediate impact, just as well as able to both provide. And like I said about Shatori Walker-Kimbrough, whether they're on the bench or whether they're on the floor to start the game, they'll both be a good scoring presence, a good, offensive speed, transition. Lots of advantages with these players and benefits that I think that Dallas did not have last season, and this could lead to greater success on the court.
Kalia Davis at 10 to Dallas via New York. Then at 11, Owen, the defending champion LA Sparks via Dallas. Talk about a steal here. Sydney Weiss, the Pac-12's all-time three-point shooting record holder, to LA. I had brought up as well, Owen, during the draft day broadcast with Angelique and all them was, here the Sparks let Tolliver walk to free agency, but yet they pretty much, again, not comparing apples to oranges, but again, or comparing a veteran to a first-year rookie soon to be. But when one three-point shooter leaves in Tolliver, but yet player in the draft, I mean, that's a steal right there. And for LA, the core intact still from last season between Parker and the mixture of characters there. In your mind, Owen, what do you think about LA? I mean, I think this is probably one of the biggest steals in round 1, perhaps for a team that was this late in the opening round of draft.
I think it was a tremendous pick. I am very excited to see Sydney Weiss take the floor with Los Angeles. It is definitely the steal of the first round, no question for me. And I think that maybe they'll, come out on top with losing Tolliver and gaining Sydney Weiss. I definitely think that she'll provide a much needed, obviously, the three-point shooting that she carries with her. But also, she's a little bit taller than Tolliver. Maybe she can play some better defense. That's something that I know Tolliver somewhat struggled with in the past with LA, but maybe some height and a tall shooter will lead to some better defensive opportunities. And also, without losing any three-point shooting ability.
And along with Chelsea Gray, who could shoot the 3, and also Essence Carson, who's also deadly from beyond the arc. And I agree. Perhaps the biggest steal in round 1 was seeing Sydney Weiss fall all the way down to 11 and falls to Los Angeles at this point. Then at 12, Owen, the league best record, Minnesota Lynx, first time in 3 years used their first-round draft pick. They took Alexis Jones to fulfill their guard position. So obviously, Owen, and again, a lot of these points we talked about earlier in the day, but again, Minnesota, a team that is not getting any younger. We've talked about that and seen it, I think, though, too, between Simone Augustus and Lindsay Whalen, sadly, somewhat getting up there in age. But I believe, though, this is somewhat where the line has to be drawn, where the Lynx use these draft picks and get younger bodies in there, because obviously signing Plannett Pearson, she's also not getting any younger. But I believe, though, that this is about the time, though, now where Cheryl Reeve realizes that we need to get younger bodies in here, because What do you believe Alexis Jones can bring, though, to somewhat help out the roster age of Minnesota this season?
I think she definitely brings great presence of youth. She'll be able to learn, tremendous amounts of things from these older, more veteran players, especially, the likes of Lindsay Whalen, Simone Augustus, Maya Moore. She's got great people to learn from, and she has a nice coach to do it with too, in Cheryl Reeve. I think she, 3, 4, 5 years down the road could be a core coming in, being the lucky one, like you said, being the first draft pick the first round draft pick that they have used in quite a while. A good player to develop, I think, is what I have to say about her, because she hopefully will be able to provide some immediate impact, but with the elder players in the lineup, I think she will probably come off the bench, but provide some much needed youth on that team.
Michael Driver chimes in to just say, with Simone playing in Russia every year, come playoff time, she's worn down. This pick gives the Lynx another closer with Maya and Lindsay as well. So obviously a good point brought up as well. And Todd wanted to touch base about Dallas. He says, and I believe, Owen, you may have touched base on this, they need to go up tempo. He found that they were stagnant in games and awful in half-court games. Now they have some more athletes, so that obviously helps for the Wings going forward. And again, I believe that they really did a solid job in the first round. Then to the second round, starting off with the Connecticut Sun by way of what I'm calling the solar system trade between the Sun, Stars, and Mercury. Shayla Cooper goes to Connecticut via the Stars and Mercury. So obviously round 2 as well was sort of when we kind of got derailed, because as we somewhat know, they become like Vegas car dealers, just throwing out new hands. So we were pretty much scrambling. But obviously Cooper goes to the Sun via the Stars and Mercury. I feel that the one pick, or a couple picks here, Owen, in round 2, Lindsay Allen to the Liberty by way of Dallas, was really a pick that really locked in the panel earlier this afternoon. I believe you may have touched base on it a little earlier, OP. What do you believe, though, that Lindsay Allen can bring to the Liberty? Obviously, this was also their first pick of the draft in round 2. Had no first-round pick, but obviously for a second-round pick, that's a pretty good steal, I think, too, for New York. What do you think?
Absolutely. She brings great court awareness. She's a really good passer. She can get the ball inside to Tina Charles, newly acquired Kia Vaughn. And also, she's got a fellow ACC player coming in the third round, Kai James, out of Florida State. Maybe this could lead to some increased chemistry. We'll see. But I think they found a player with great court awareness, great passing ability, and, others first philosophy. Looking to pass and score inside, I think, is her main goal. And I think that's something that Bill Laimbeer looks forward to.
So again, Lindsay Allen at the second pick of round 2 to the Liberty via Dallas. Another name that does stick out. Oh, and we had some news break about this about 10 minutes after the draft. Cita Romero going to Connecticut via or out of Florida State, but just was told roughly about 20 minutes after the show ended, to be exact. David Siegel of Hoop is rumored and confirmed that Romero is actually not going to be playing in the season for the Sun due to her commitments with the Spanish national team. So obviously, and this is obviously one minor obstacle that GMs do take, or a gamble that they do take, in regards to these foreign players that do have commitments with their national teams. But I think regardless of that, though, Owen, what do you believe that Romero 18 when we do see her? Because obviously, as mentioned, she won't be playing for CT this summer.
I think she'll bring similar to Lindsay Allen. I know I've said that about 3 times now. But great, just a great guard, really smart with the ball, a good point. Not as aware as Lindsay Allen. 16th pick, I thought that was a steal. I've seen her play in person, one of the few of these that I get to see, being in little old Winston-Salem. But I think that was a great pick for Connecticut, and I think she will fit in the Kurt Miller system down in Uncasville very well when she is finished with her commitments to the Spanish national team.
So Lucida Romero out for the regular season due to the Spanish national team commitments with her. Then the other notable one, Skipped over one. Alexis Peterson, I think, is another good one. Seattle via Washington at the 3 spot in round 2. Obviously, we've heard a lot of good things about Alexis Peterson during her time in college, and of course, going to Seattle with Sue Bird to mentor her and mentor a lot of these young rookies coming in, and also playing alongside Breanna Stewart as well. What do you think Seattle gets here? Obviously, they are planning for when Birdie does decide to call it quits, which I hope is not anytime soon, because I love watching Sue play. Perhaps Peterson can bring alongside Sue and Stewie as well in your mind.
I think she brings some much needed athleticism to this team. This team has been slow, sluggish at times. Very wise player, always looking to be open. She finds 3-point shots really well. Tremendous shooter, high percentage shooter. And I think, despite her height disadvantage, I think that she'll provide some great 3-point shooting to this team and the much needed athleticism. I think that's the biggest asset here, not necessarily the 3-point shooting, but the athleticism that Seattle desperately needs with the aging of Sue Bird. And then, even though we have young players with Breanna Stewart and Jewell Loyd, I think that the athleticism is something that needed to be addressed in Seattle.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Obviously, with Sue getting up in age, and then some of the younger kids coming in. So Alexis Peterson to the Storm via the Mystics. Also notably as well, Owen, Erica McCall out of Stanford, first Kern County, California player drafted from what I had gathered. Makes her home in Bakersfield, or at least from the area. Indiana via Phoenix makes this move in general. Owen, again, obviously, I think it can't be overstated enough to really talk about how it's tough to somewhat rebuild after a star player or a legendary figure retires. And I think that Pokey Chapman really has set herself up good for her first campaign. And obviously, Erica McCall at Stanford was phenomenal all year in the Pac-12 for the Cardinal, leading them all the way back to. What do you believe she can bring to Indy to help the Fever kick off the first year post Tamika Catchings?
She brings in some depth to the post. I think that's something they needed with the loss of Tamika Catchings. Not that she played post, but that leaves a spot open, and I think it's a great thing to fill that spot with a forward center, like post-up option with Erica McCall. They did need a little bit of post depth, in my opinion, and they've got a couple of posts in her, Erica McCall, and Crystal Thomas coming into camp. I think they've got some good options there, and I look at McCall. I want her to make the roster really, really bad. I like watching her at Stanford, and but she definitely brings some needed post depth to the Fever team in Indianapolis.
Yeah. So again, Erica McCall to the Fever via the Mercury. Another notable name as well, Jordan Reynolds out of Tennessee goes to Atlanta at 7 in round 2. And also, I don't think it can be overstated, though, too, that if college teammates get together, it's like you're bringing, all that chemistry with those two players to your franchise. Megan Simmons and Jordan Reynolds together in ATL as of right now, pending any machinations of trades or whatnot. But obviously, for Tennessee at least, Owen, coming off of obviously a very tumultuous of them over the summer. But also, Jordan Reynolds has been a player I really have liked watching her game in regards to how she's played. But also, is Atlanta really at this point is somewhat all hands on deck, with Angel being out for the first half of or for the whole season at this point. But also, Owen, do you believe that it could be obviously college teammate chemistry in the WNBA does help out though as well, along with overall team chemistry? And what do you believe Reynolds can bring to ATL in your mind too?
I think she brings a great guard presence. They needed a backup point guard. I think that she could fill that void. I see Brittany Sykes, the seventh pick in the draft, as more of a temporary replacement for Angel McCoughtry. But I think they picked for the 19th pick, a great choice in Jordan Reynolds, especially with the added chemistry that Megan Simmons has already in Atlanta. But she'll bring some nice bench minutes, and also, hopefully some productivity off of the bench, and get some good minutes for Atlanta and develop, and maybe, she can stick with the roster for years to come.
Oh, and I think I have the biggest surprise prior draft in front of me. Chantel Osahar falls all the way from the first round to the second round, 9th spot to Chicago. I did not think I'd see Chantel. The way that her and Kelsey Plum play together, it was poetry in motion for the Huskies this past season. But I think just seeing her fall to the second round, I think I was really somewhat very surprised in seeing that. But obviously, I think the Sky are stockpiling on pieces to somewhat, as we said, kind of fill the void of EDD, and also with Tamara Young in place, with Cappy Pondexter, and as well with Cheyenne Parker, as you alluded to. But again, I think that this may be one of the bigger surprises in the draft. But what do you think, though?
I think that was absolutely a surprise. I was really expecting Chantel, to go very early in the draft. As a matter of fact, mid first round, 7 through the 10th pick, actually. To see her fall to 21st, I don't know how some of these teams could pass on her, especially with some of their needs, particularly Connecticut. But I think Chicago can use her. Great rebounder. That's something they could use, of course, without Elena Delle Donne being in there for the rebounding aspect of her game. I think that Chantel was a great choice. Not necessarily because she was the best one left, but also because she will provide a great rebounding presence and post presence, and also can shoot a 3 with a flick of the wrist. So great choice for Chicago.
Yeah, needed to as well with Chicago. So that may be one surprise. Now we'll go, folks, to the third round and then wrap things up for the night here. Obviously, I think the biggest one, though, was about whether a UConn player would get drafted OP. And finally, Sonia Chong was selected by Dallas at 26th overall in round 3 out of UConn. I think also notably, I think the other surprise, though, as well, was maybe Michaela Epps falling all the way to the third round and being picked up finally in the 33rd pick by Chicago. So I don't know. I still think that Chantel is still probably the #1 biggest. I think, where do you probably rank Michaela Epps falling this far in the draft, Owen, in your mind? I mean, obviously, I had her up there in my mind at least, but again, falling from 1st to 3rd for that matter. Not 1st, 2nd, 1st to 3rd in many mock drafts. What do you think?
I actually had her early 2nd round in my draft, but still, I think that was I think a team that could have used her. Definitely Atlanta could have used her with the 31st pick. That may have been that backup point guard, but they have Jordan Reynolds there. But, I think that would have been a quality pick there. But also Minnesota. I was surprised they took 2 international players versus Michaela Epps. They had the 24th pick. That's back in the 2nd round, of course. But I was surprised that Michaela did fall all the way. I agree. But I was more surprised that the teams that could have used her did not draft her. But nonetheless, a good pickup for Chicago in the 3-point shooting aspect that I agree that they needed. I think she'll complement with Tori Jankowska coming in with the youth in camp. Also, she'll complement people like Allie Quigley, Courtney Vandersloot, in outside the arc on the court for the Sky this summer.
Have surprises again, which was again Chantel Osahor out of Washington falling from 1st to 2nd in the rounds, at least to Chicago, and then of course as well Michaela Epps falling to the 3rd round, also to the Chicago Sky. Revisiting more players. I believe that's all the notable names that I can see on here. One quick comment, one very appreciative comment in the chat box, courtesy of Michael Driver. He says, once again, thank you so much for being here. Very nice for fans like us to have a forum to share our input. Well, Michael, we've been here 3 years officially now, so we thank you for tuning in tonight and joining us. This evening we'll have more and more great content once the season does get rolling, when we do in fact get there. With that, Owen, we'll get your final thoughts on the draft tonight. Obviously, a couple of not really, again, as we said this evening, not a whole lot of surprises, not a whole lot of trades yet. Again, we'll probably have some once this program is over, for all that I know. But I guess, Owen, overall final take on the draft as a whole tonight, and what do you think?
Not too surprising, but a couple of players, shot up and a couple of players shot down. but that's also, you know, typical with the draft, I guess. But, you know, some of the things that stick out in my mind, Phoenix only took 1 pick in the 3rd round. I thought that was a little strange to me. But otherwise, nothing really sticks out. Overall, good draft. You know, obviously not too happy with the facility choice for the draft this evening. But otherwise, an overall quality draft for the year. And I look forward to the season as I do every year.
That makes 2 of us. Again, folks, WNBA Draft 2017 in the books. And again, the whole draft order can be found, of course, on WNBA.com. And one more quick comment from Michael De Leon, who says, fantastic job, guys. Always enjoy the draft coverage. And again, thanks to all of our new Twitter followers, new YouTube subscribers and viewers. We had a great day of coverage for you guys. Glad again to be back here again. As I said, I've been juggling other announcing duties I've had for the past couple months. So again, thankful and grateful to be back with you folks here this evening. Haven't been able to check numbers yet, but it looks like I want to at least say we've had roughly 20, 25, 30 new followers on Twitter, and hopefully some new subscribers on the tube as well. With that, folks, we want to give also want to, of course, thank our 3 guests on our draft day show, o'clock local time today, Neela Khan, and as well as Pat Friday, and also NBA TV's Angel Gray as well for joining us on our first show today. And also want to give thanks as well to one of our newer folks you'll probably see in here every once in a while, but also a thanks to Owen Perkins, the stats and facts guru, Stat Rat as I'll call you, Stat Rat. That's what I was. I used to be called a Stat Rat at one point. Again, you can find Owen on Twitter. His handle is at WNBA Stats Facts. Owen, thanks for the time, buddy. And hey, we'd like to do this again with you sometime during the course of the regular season or even during training camp.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So with that, folks, up until maybe tomorrow night, if not Tuesday, we'll have some coverage here to get back on our feet, to get back into the mix for the 2017 season. But again, folks, thank you very much for joining us today on a very solid, great, nearly 4 hours of coverage today on the WNBA 365 network. For Owen Perkins in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, this is Cal McClurg signing off from the CalMX Sports Studios in San Diego. Until next time, folks, have a great night, and we'll see you back here. And good night. Bye-bye.